Good morning, student. Welcome to today class. Today we will discuss agencies of education. Today we will discuss meaning and classification of agencies of education. Meaning of educational agencies. An agency of education is a specialized institution or organization that directly or indirectly exercises on educational influence on the child. This includes both formal and informal institutions such as school, the crèche, the library, the newspaper, the magazine, the exhibition, the museum, the radio, the cinema, the television, etc. Characteristics of educational agencies. It exercises some educational influence on individual. It is directly or indirectly concerned with the education of youngster. It includes both formal as well as informal social institutions. It concern with the transmission of culture and social heritage of the society. It includes both specialized as well as non-specialized institutions. Now we will discuss types of uh, education agency. We will discuss on different ways of agencies. Classification on the basis of the type of education provided by the agency. First is formal agency of education. This include institution deliberately set up by the society with the specific objective of carrying out the various functions of education. For example, school, the church, the museum. These are the example of formal education agency. Next is informal agencies of education. This include institutions which perform educational functions just incidentally and indirectly. For example, the family, the peer group, youth club, etc. Second classification of education agency is based on the role played by the agency. Classification on the basis of the role played by the agency. First one is active agency of education. There is a personal interaction between educator and educand. For example, home school, religious institution, and society. Second, passive agency of education. They affect the individual, but they are not affected by them. For example, library, radio, TV, etc. Next, classification on the basis of the monetary in- intention of the agencies. Commercial agencies of education, they have their objective of business in view, but they also provide different kind of education. Newspaper, radio, television, etc. Next classification, non-commercial agencies of education. They are not profit service or service oriented educational agencies created for social welfare and social good. For example, club, social welfare center, scouting, girls guidance, etc. Agencies of informal education, we will discuss in detail informal education agencies of education. First is family. The family is the oldest base and fundamental unit of human society. It is regarded as the primary agent of education. You also listen many times, mother is your first teacher. So mother is also part of the family. The basic purpose of the family is to provide a loving, safe environment for children. Educational function of the family. It provides early physical training. It socializes the child. It helps in character formation of the child. It support mental development of the child. It imparts spiritual and moral education in the child. It can collaborate with school. It prepare ground for future learning. It acculturate the child. So these are the educational function of the family. Second, Informal education is the peer group. A peer group is a group of individuals having more or less same age and status. It is a group of friends that a certain person will try to impress to get their bond, social status, and interest. Educational role of the peer group. It is socialize the individual. It helps to develop balanced personality. It facilitates mental development. It favors physical development. It inculcates social values. It develops leadership qualities. It fostered talents and creative ability. It acculturates an student in peer group. So these are the role of the peer group in education. Next agencies is community. The term community to a group of people living together in an area, having a way of working and common ideas to achieve. Community is an informal and active agency of education which cast lasting influence on the educational development of the individual. Educational role of the community. Provide educational facilities to children through institutions. Formulate an objective of educational. Socialize the child. Help for cultural development. It encourages the vocational development of the learner. They encourage it and coordinate the educational efforts of various parallel agencies. Number fourth, informal agency is mass media. The media used for the mass to communicate something are called as mass media. They are source of and news such as a newspaper, magazine, radio, television, cinema, and internet that reach and influence large number of people. Educational function of the mass media. The television can serve a powerful medium for imparting education through educational broadcasting. The World Wide Web make interaction between the teacher and the taught setting in remote places. Helpful in intellectual, social, emotional, and aesthetic development of the child. Help children to enrich their imagination, their creativity, encourage them to think divergent, divergently, help to transmitting cultural value from one generation to another, help to develop social and political values like feeling of brotherhood, oneness, corporation, democratic value, etc. Newspaper play their education function by providing up to date information about many areas and also by intimating information about the opportunities of education. These are the informal agencies of education. We discuss first family, family, then peer group, then community, then mass media. Now we will discuss formal education, agencies of education, and we will discuss the school. An institution for the instruction of children or pupil under college age. Educational function of the school. The family alone cannot provide all that is required for the education of that is required for the education of that the child. He is Therefore, or parents therefore sent to the school where professionally trained person are involved is the upbringing of the child. The school is an institution where the behavior of individual is shaped to prepare him to be effective and functional member of his society. It is the school that can be regarded as a factory where the child is proceed into a refined personality that can cope with the increasing the complexity in the labor market and also initialization. First function of the school, conservation and perpetuation of the social life. One of the most important function of the school is to maintain the continuity of social life by handling down tradition, experiences, values, and customs of the society from one generation to another. Thus, the school provides minimum journal culture to all the pupils, which is indispensable for a successful living in the present day complex society. Next function of the school, promotion of cultural and civilization. The school not only transmit the cultural heritage to the rising generation, it is also trains children in a manner that they enrich and modified that heritage through their own efforts and thus help in the establishment of a better and hyper society. As DJO Cannon has said, if each generation had to learn for itself what has been be learned by its pre the seers, not short of the intellectual or social development would be possible, and the present uh, state of the society would be little different from the society of the old stage. Thus, the school performed the important function of constantly reorganizing and reconstructing human experiences for the promotion of cultural and civilization. Next function of the school, all round development of individual. The school develop the whole personality of the child, physically, intellectually, morally, socially, aesthetically, and spiritual through its curricular and co-curricular activity, through craft work, games, sport, society, artist, and other impulses. Thus, the child not only acquire knowledge but also develop the requisite habit, skills, and attitudes. Promotion of social efficiency. To alive in democratic society, children must be trained in the democratic method through education, and the school program is planned accordingly. Training for effective participation in democratic government and cultivation of a balanced sense of right and duties is an important function of the school. This is done by the school by having a clear concept of democratic ideals, and then directing educational program accordingly. The school goes on studying and analyzing the school development as a result of rapid change in the economic, political, and physical conditions. On the basis of this study and analysis, it will modify and readjust its educational program so as to reflect the process of the social evaluation and process. Post school adjustability. Buron says that school has directly responsibility to preparing the individual children for post school adjustment. In word of John Davy, we send children to school to learn in a systematic way the occupations which constitute living. A child spent about a decade of the most impressionable impressionable period of his life in the school, and after completing his school education is generally to adjust himself with the society outside of the school to the best of his capabilities and capacity. If this adjustment is desirable and proper, the school has succeeded. It is aim and objective. If not, it has failed to discharge its responsibilities. The success or failure of the school system is judged by the end product, and in disciplined and frustrated adults is a bad product of the education. So one of them, the main function of the school is to turn out of its protels uh, such young men and women as may adjust themselves properly and usefully with their social group and lead successful lives on the professional, public, and private levels. Inculcate of higher value of life. Moral and religious education, which was formerly imparted by the family and the church, is now also the responsibility of the school. Joint family system is rapidly breaking, and the church is uh, losing its hold over the pupil. This gap is now be filled by the school. So long with the social, economic, and democratic ideals, the school is also to develop moral sense of children so that they be distinguish between right and wrong. So school education must develop in the children a sense of true appreciation of truth, goodness, and beauty. These are the main function of the schools. Reference of our today lecture. These are the reference our today lecture. You should go through for further more detailed knowledge of the today lecture. Now, time for MCQs. And filling the blanks is a specialized institution or organization that directly or indirectly exercises an educational influence on the child. Option A, family. Option B, peer group. Option C, agencies of education. Option D, none. Correct option is option C, agencies of education. And agencies of education is a uh, specialized institution or organization that directly or indirectly exercises on education influence on the child. Next MCQs. Characteristics of educational agencies are: it include both formal as well as informal social institution. Option A. Option B, it concern with the transmission of cultural and social heritage of the society. Option C, it include both specialized as well as non-specialized institution. Option D, all the above. Correct answer is D, all above. A, B, and C, all the characteristics of the educational agencies. Type of educational agencies are school, family, peer group, all the above. Correct answer is all the above. School, family, and peer group, all the example of educational agencies. Next MCQ. Example of formal agencies of education. Option A, school. Option B, family. Option C, peer group. Option D, all above. Correct answer is option A, school. Uh, because school is a formal agencies of education, family and peer group example of informal education of agency. Next MCQ. Example of informal agencies of education: school, family, peer group. Option D, both A and B. Correct answer is option D. B and A and correct answer is uh, B and C. Family and uh, peer group. Next MCQs. Active agency of education are: option A school, option B home, option C society, option D all above. Correct answer is option D, all above: school, home and society. All are active agency. Next MCQ, filling the blanks is an informal and active agency of the education which cast lasting influence on the educational development of individual. Option A community, option B school, option C museum, option D none. Correct answer is option A community. Community is an informal and active agency of education which casting lasting influence on the educational development of the individual. Next MCQs. The filling the blanks is an institution where the behavior of individual is shaped to prepare him to be effective and fundamental members of the his society. Option A community, option B school, option C museum, option D none. Correct answer is option B school. The school is an institution where the behavior of individual is shaped to the prepare him to be effective and functional member of his society. Next MCQs. The filling the blanks develop the whole personality of the child: physical, intellectual, moral, social, aesthetically, and spiritual through its curricular and co-curricular activities. Option A community, option B school, option C museum, option D none. Correct answer is option B school. The school develop the whole personality of the child: physical, intellectual, moral, social, aesthetically, and spiritual through its curricular and co-curricular activities. Next MCQ. The media used for the mass to communication something are the called uh, mass media. True and false questions. You have two options only, true or false. This is the correct answer because we all know the media is used for mass communication. They spread